In one corner of the courtyard, a boy is helping his grandfather mash something in a small stone mortar. You shuffle closer and see what looks like dried thyme, some burnt date pits, and a bit of salt. They add a splash of sesame oil, an early emulsifier, and keep grinding. The result is dark, earthy, and intensely aromatic. The boy laughs and rubs a little of the mixture on his gums. The grandfather nods with the slow approval of someone who's been doing this since the Akkadian Empire. You join in, rubbing a dab along your teeth. It stings just a little, but leaves behind a nutty, herbal freshness. And once again, your mouth feels clearer. Not sparkling clean, but serviceable. Clean enough for courtship. Or at least for storytelling. Back on the street, you pass a traveling peddler with a basket full of bundled twigs and small clay pots. He calls out something that sounds like fresh bark, or possibly fresh dark. Either way, he's got a crowd. People buy their favorite chewing sticks just like we buy toothpaste tubes today. Each twig is tied with a bit of string, with a tiny knot that's been dipped in something aromatic. You pick one up, sniff it cautiously, and get a burst of fennel. A surprising treat in this dusty place. A scholarly debate still bubbles around how widespread these routines were. Did every household make their own oral paste? Or were there specialists, healers, priests, or even early tooth vendors who provided products for a fee? No one's entirely sure. Clay tablets mention mixtures and recipes for all sorts of hygiene rituals, but whether they were common or elite luxuries remains up for discussion. Still chewing thoughtfully on your fennel twig, you turn a corner and come across a group of young girls playing near a stepped well. One girl points at your mouth and giggles, mimicking the brushing motion. She pulls a similar twig from her pocket and begins chewing dramatically, like a little performer. The others follow suit, and soon, the whole group is mock brushing and laughing hysterically. You smile, the kind of sleepy smile that happens when things are both ancient and familiar. And just like that, the daily rhythm of oral hygiene blends back into the larger hum of Mesopotamian life. No one's panicking over cavities, no one's chasing perfection. They're just trying to keep the grit out of their gums and maybe smell nice enough to chat with the priestess at the temple without embarrassment. You pass a niche in a house wall where someone has etched a tiny image, a figure holding a stick, smiling wide. It's no Colgate ad, but it's endearing. The suns dip below the horizon now, and shadows stretch long across the clay streets. Somewhere nearby, a family is lighting a small oil lamp. Time slows, the day softens, and your mouth, for once, feels, if not clean, then cared for. You keep walking, your now slightly soggy twig dangling from the corner of your mouth, like a sleepy detective with a habit. The city around you hums on. Livestock bleat, merchants call out something about 5 fish for a jar of oil, and someone is playing a reed flute in the background, either very skillfully or just with a lot of confidence. The sun is beginning to dip lower in the sky, casting long shadows across the baked mud bricks and drying laundry lines. It's the perfect hour for winding down, and for doing what any self-respecting Mesopotamian might do after a meal. Tend to those teeth. You duck into a small domestic courtyard, where a family is wrapping up dinner. Clay bowls have been scraped mostly clean, and now the adults sit around with twigs in hand, chatting idly, while absent-mindedly brushing their teeth. There's something relaxing, almost ritualistic about it. Like flossing without guilt, or that moment when your electric toothbrush starts its final vibration, and you pretend you've won a prize. But let's rewind a bit. Before the paste, before the fancy frayed ends, what did tooth care actually look like in the daily lives of regular Mesopotamians? Let's start with rinsing. Plain water might seem like the obvious option, but here's the catch. Water wasn't always safe. The rivers were sacred, yes, but also full of runoff, dead fish, the occasional human waste, and bits of old sandals. That's where beer came in again. Not to get tipsy, necessarily, but because it had been boiled and fermented, making it relatively cleaner. Some people would rinse with it. Others use salt water or diluted vinegar to wash out their mouths, especially after eating. Historians still argue whether these rinsing rituals were done primarily for hygiene or for spiritual purification. Like many practices in the ancient world, it's likely a bit of both. You try a sip of the beer. It's warm, flat, and tastes faintly of old bread. but it does rinse away the last of that gritty fig. Not bad. A woman offers you a tiny clay pot filled with some kind of paste. It's grayish, a little crumbly, and smells faintly of ash and mint. You dip your twig in it and gingerly brush your molars. There's a mild burn. Definitely ash. Possibly some crushed seeds. Maybe even a bit of powdered bone. Though you try not to think about that too hard. It's effective. Turns out, oral paste was a thing. Though not in the sparkly, gel-striped way we know today. Ancient Mesopotamians may have used blends of wood ash, powdered herbs, crushed shells, and even salt or clay. These were mixed into a gritty paste that both scoured the teeth and freshened breath. Assuming you didn't mind that your breath now smelled like toasted gravel.